Well, competitiveness, without any doubt, is the subject today in Europe. I mean, it's a tool to develop the prosperity of the country. And basically, by competitiveness, we mean managing a totality of resource and competencies in order to be successful. I think a country does not succeed only because it has a good budget balance or good trade. It's also a matter of education, a matter of technology, even a mindset, an attitude. All these together provide the path to become a prosperous nation. Now, Croatia, obviously, because of the past history, is just starting the road to competitiveness. And I think that the access into Europe in July will be a huge opportunity to have access to a market, to have access also to funds on infrastructure, to have access to more investment, because this is one of the problems of Croatia, attracting investment into the country. So I think there is a lot of opportunities. I would like also to say that when you are a smaller nation like mine, Switzerland, it's easier to manage a smaller nation and it's quicker to show result than a big one. So sometimes you have advantages to be smaller. Switzerland is very much on the side, but I think that if you take a small countries, we have amongst small countries a lot of things we can learn from each other. The first one being, of course, that small and medium-sized enterprise do matter. I mean, we have big companies, but we cannot have huge companies like the US or elsewhere. But really, I think making sure that the medium-sized companies become successful, not only inside the country, but outside the country is very important. And I think here, technology plays a very big role, because today with technology, a small company can have a global impact because you can communicate with internet, with emails, and I think it makes a lot of difference. So in my opinion, this is something which is very important. In this kind of world, even smaller enterprise and smaller nation can be global. Keynes used to say the problem is that precisely all the problems are economics and all the solutions are politics. So we are all a little bit the hostages of politics. I mean, we see it now with the big debate on Europe. The real problem is not so much what is happening in Greece, Spain, etc. It's also how quickly the politician can decide. I think that what people need in terms of competitiveness, and perhaps even more the smaller enterprise, is a predictable environment. It's an environment where you know what are going to be the rules of the game on a certain period of time. Now, this is absolutely essential. It doesn't mean it has to be business friendly. It has to be predictable. China, for example, is not really business friendly, but the rules are clear, the rules have been set up and they are not changing over time. On the other hand, you take India. India is, for 4 years is open, 4 years is closed, and the next 4 years is in between. So I think the big probably advice to politicians in Croatia is try to make an environment which is predictable. And once the rules of the game are clear for everybody, everybody will adapt. I think the biggest issue for Europe is a question of governance, of decision making. I sometimes say it's a little bit like if you are taking, for example, the United States of America, and if they have to take a decision on the dollar, they would have to call the 50 governors of the 50 US states in one room and tell them, now you have to decide. It's impossible. Now, we do the same thing with 17 nations on the euro in Europe, and obviously they cannot agree. In addition, because they are politicians, in addition, because they have elections, which are coming, like it is the case in Germany, but all the time you will have somebody with election, Italy, Germany, and the rest. So I think we need to give more power to the European Central Bank. I think what we are really missing in Europe to stabilize and to make it more predictable is a European Central Bank which can really play the role of a European Central Bank, which is not the case now because they don't have the power to buy sovereign bonds, they don't have the power to act the way they want, and I think this is a critical problem. I mean, recession, we are all in recession. I mean, in Europe, I think the key problem with Slovenia is obviously the debt issue, the banking sector, which is a little bit in a difficult situation. I think all these problems are compounded by the fact that austerity has really put a brake on the development of Europe. And I think that one of the key issues we are finding today is that actually by austerity, the level of debt is not going down as quickly as the GDP. And surprisingly enough, when you are taking Greece, Spain, etc., they have a higher level of debt today compared to the GDP than in 2008. simply because the GDP went down quickly, but the debt is not going down as quickly. So the ratio is becoming bigger. So I think this is one of the critical issues now, is to make sure that in Europe we continue to discuss austerity, but with a bit more subtlety. I think the Italians want to do it, the French wants to do it, etc. We have only one person to convince, and it is Mrs. Merkel. When I was in Berlin recently, I was in front of a travel agency, and on the screen of the travel agency it was written, "Go to Greece and visit your taxes." So people are extremely sensitive about the issue. This is now politics. We have people in Germany saying, I have been saving all my life. I don't want to save Malta with my money. And the politicians are the hostages themselves of the public opinion, and I think this is probably the issue. I think that he should save his money by first getting a good education. I think education is the best investment you can do in your life. The second thing is that probably, since the situation is a bit tough here in Croatia in terms of employment, especially for the younger generation, don't hesitate to go outside and travel. Go and get an experience in Europe, and especially also outside Europe. Experience the level of energy that you find elsewhere. Get a good experience, and then you come back in your country when you are 40 years old, so you can pay for the pension system. I like the fact that you are a young country, which is at the beginning of, I hope, a period of competitiveness and growth. Actually, what is wonderful is that you have almost a clean plate. I mean, you can decide about your future in a much more easier way than a country like mine, Switzerland, where we are the hostage of history, we are the hostage of past experience. We are actually the hostage of success somewhere, because when you did something successful, to tell people, let's change it, we should change it, they say, no, it's working, don't touch it. And you say, yeah, but you cannot wait until it is destroyed to change it. So I think that Croatia has this unique capacity now, first, to learn from the mistake of the others, and second, I think to be in a position where actually you can do almost whatever you want. The real issue is do it.